Hello, my name is Brian Anderson. My topic is building awareness among educators about the emergence of vaping. Just wanted to have this screencast so I could go over everything I wasn't able to in the 5-minute Flipgrid video. So let me first define what vaping is. A vaporizer is a battery-powered device with a heating element. Produces aerosol, which are small particulates suspended in the air. This then creates chemicals in the gas phase, and the users are then inhaling these chemicals. So what are adolescents or students in particular inhaling? Nicotine, marijuana, these other fruity flavors. They don't contain nicotine or marijuana. It's still being investigated what these other fruity flavors really are, though, if there's more to the story. But anyways, there was a study in 2015 and it revealed that youth were most commonly inhaling these other fruity flavors that don't contain nicotine or marijuana. Nicotine was actually in a distant second, followed by marijuana in third. And there's other substances that are continually being researched. In the beginning, I stated that the emergence of vaping in my title. Well, in 2011, there was a near zero prevalence of vaping. And then 6 years later, vaping was noted as the most common use of any tobacco product among adolescents. I think this next study is huge. They found a 10% increase in the use of nicotine vaping among 12th grade students and a 7.9% increase among 10th grade students from 2017 to 2018. This year-to-year increase was the largest ever recorded in the 44 years that Monitoring the Future has tracked over a dozen different kinds of substances. I then looked at the National Academies of Sciences. They prepared a report. It reviewed over 800 research papers on ENDS, and ENDS are electronic nicotine delivery systems. So this limits vaping just to the nicotine that is being inhaled. This was congressionally mandated and sponsored by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. They did find a net public health benefit with the use of ENDS through the year 2050. So what this basically was showing that those that are substituting smoking cigarettes with using these ENDS, there is a benefit to them, but these gains disappear through the year 2070, which points even more to this finding below that ENDS use among youth increases the risk of future tobacco use, smoking cigarettes, etc. And some more findings from this report that the ENDS can deliver nicotine at levels comparable to cigarettes, and again increase the dependence that is seen among cigarette smoking. Over 70% of the market share of ENDS users are in the United States alone, and over 2 million youth are using these products. That's the scary part about this. It's been virtually unregulated on the U.S. market for more than 10 years until finally the FDA stepped in, and the NAS report that we looked at. This is from 2019. This is very recent. What this statement here about how popular and problematic it is on middle and high school campuses is so real. I see it in my school district, and I see it in school districts around me, and I have to imagine it's become the norm in this nation. So on average, it takes 17 years to translate research into practice. So we have a long way to go with vaping, with how current and real it is now and how much it's grown in the last 6 years. And also, with that being said, the remainder of my study looks more at substance abuse as a whole rather than just vaping. So ways in which substance abuse impacts adolescents, I have it all listed here. It undermines motivation, interferes with cognitive processes. It also increases the violent crimes, a higher number of that, which is more of a societal impact than an individual impact. But you can even see it below some of the health impacts that substance abuse does. I think really ultimately understanding the risk factors will allow us to go below the surface to understand why students are vaping. And here are some of the risk factors that are outlined. As you can see, low relationships with family, academic failure, low degree of commitment to school. Also another one here, association with drug-using peers. At this age, for adolescents, especially middle to high school, they're looking for approval from their peers in those relationships, as seen in this photo accompanied with this slide. Thought this was pretty interesting. I'm going to look really mainly at the last point. In this study among 11 to 17-year-olds, they found that cigarettes were the gateway drug to other substances, and maybe this is already known, but I wonder, is vaping the new gateway drug to cigarettes and to other substance abuse, with other drugs that are available? So how do we address this? We talked about building an understanding of risk factors. There's also protective factors that need to be put in place. And again, didn't get to highlight this in my video, but parental behavioral control in this study that I have cited below was actually the most statistically significant measure of helping increase or properly address substance abuse, increase positive effects, I should say. But I want to look more at school functioning, since it's in the scope of my position and why I'm in the program that I'm in as well. Before I do that, one of the ways beyond just like the protective factors that I mentioned is changing social norms, and so just limit the advertising. In the 1992 article, this was specifically stated, and at that time that made me think of all the different advertisements that were going on with cigarette smoking. This advertisement to the right, this was in a 1994 magazine article. Cigarettes were just seen as part of the lifestyle. How often do we see these smoking ads 27 years later? Not at all. And my hope is that the same is true with vaping and ENDS products and whatnot. Also, they're communicating disapproval for its use and distribution of illegal drugs, community coalitions against drugs, and I've listed some examples in those pictures below, and certain policy changes. In fact, certain law changes that I should have highlighted as well. The law has to catch up specifically to vaping to properly address how to handle with adolescents. I've seen that a lot in some of the administrative decisions that have happened at my school. And with that being said, there has to be a change in school policies. We've done a good job of making sure that people know that you cannot smoke cigarettes on campus, even near school grounds. It's completely unacceptable. But at the time of this article, where this was stated 27 years ago, they noted how additional research was proposed for reducing the use of drugs other than cigarettes, and that can't be more true now, specifically with vaping. How can we bring this same sort of attention to vaping to make it second nature, that not only smoking cigarettes is unacceptable, but vaping as well? So we have an important role as educators. We need to connect with our students and build relationships. We've seen this through the different articles that we looked at in class. I highlight the teacher's knowledge of students. The more we can get to know our students and the questions they have about themselves and questions to do with their relationships with other people. Let's look back at some of the risk factors. Association with drug-using peers. This is pretty pertinent to this example here, as they're struggling with relationships with others. That could be peers, that could be family conflict and low bonding to family, even intrapersonal, beyond just the interpersonal relationships. Let me go back to this last slide here. Building respectful relationships with students is one of the high leverage teaching practices, and I think that we've made a great push with the importance of building relationships with our students, but we can only get better at that. And then I listed some of the mindsets and behaviors listed by the ASCA. I really just want to focus on that first one, M3, which is just a sense of belonging to the school environment. I think as we do better with these 2 points that I mentioned, students feel more involved in school. Lastly, just in conclusion, just with these 3 sources in mind, they can really help us understand what lies below the surface, understand those risk factors each students are facing, and then we can come up with the proper ways to assess those risk factors, which I think is crucial. That was done in different ways throughout the different studies that we looked at in the scope of my research. Once we come up with those, assessing those risk factors, we can then come up with the appropriate protective factors and supports to tackle this issue. Thank you.